Okay, so we're going to start in Joshua chapter 23. And it says, after a long time had passed, and the Lord had given Israel rest from all their enemies around them, Joshua, by then a very old man, summoned all Israel, their elders, leaders, judges, and officials, and said to them, I am very old. So this is Joshua, and he's talking before the Israelites. You yourselves have seen everything the Lord your God has done to all these nations for your sake. It was the Lord your God who fought for you. Remember how I have given you an inheritance to all the tribes of the land of the nations that remain, the nations that I conquered between the Jordan and the Mediterranean Sea? The Lord your God himself will push them out for your sake. He will drive them out before you, and you will take possession of their land, as the Lord your God promised you. Now, be very strong. Be careful to obey all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, without turning aside to the right or to the left. Who remembers the 10 Commandments that God gave to Moses and to the Israelites? When Moses went on top of this mountain, God met with him there, and he put on 2 tablets the 10 Commandments, and those were a summary of all the laws that God was giving to his people. So if you remember, there's one that says, there shall be no other God before me. But it also had things like, you shall honor your father and your mother. It said, you shall not steal, you shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, and you shall not lie. Okay? So there's 10 of them, and I just mentioned about half. So this is what God is saying and reminding them. He's saying, be very strong, be careful to obey all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, without turning aside to the right or to the left. Do not associate with these nations that remain among you. Do not invoke the names of their gods or swear by them. So some of the gods that they worshipped again were Baal and Ashtoreth. You must not serve them or bow down to them, but you are to hold fast to the Lord your God as you have until now. The Lord has driven out before you great and powerful nations. To this day, no one has been able to withstand you. One of you routs 1,000 because the Lord your God fights for you, just as he promised. So be careful to love the Lord your God. Okay. So one really cool thing that God has done for the Israelites is he said, I'm going to be with you no matter what, and no enemy is going to be able to stand up against you and push you back, because I'm with you. The Lord is with them. And he also says that with just one of you, because God is with him, he can fight off 1,000 of the enemies around them.
Pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I would really like to watch that.
Me too.
That light came on.
Okay, that's okay. It just means it's still working. Mm-hmm. So one of you routs 1,000 because the Lord your God fights for you, just as he had promised. Now, God just gave the Israelites, through Joshua, a command saying that you must be careful to obey, right, those laws. Now, the law of God is to love him with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then the second law is this, to love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? So when we love one another and we love God, first and foremost, we are not going to hurt one another. We are not going to sin against one another.
Chelsea, I love you like myself.
Now, there was a problem, though, that happened.
I love you like myself.
The Israelites, even though they heard these words and they were like, I am going to follow God, I am going to live a life of love, I'm going to obey him, worship only him. They said all those things with their words, but their actions said otherwise. Okay? And when God said, I want you to drive out the Canaanites completely, they decided, you know what? I actually don't want to do that. I want to make like a treaty with them. I want to intermarry with them. Okay? So they started mingling with people that were openly living against God. And instead of them influencing them for good, those people were influencing them for bad. So how many of us have had like friends, don't say any names, that have influenced you for bad before, and you're like, maybe I should stop being their friend because I'm trying to rub off some good on them, but that's not working. They're just rubbing bad off on me, right? So in those situations, sometimes God, He wants us to set ourselves apart and say, I'm not going to participate in those things that that person is doing because I know it's wrong. Okay? And that takes a lot of courage to stand up and do what's right like that. I'm skipping over to the next set of verses. Okay, so now we have an angel of the Lord. Now the angel of the Lord, I'm using this to represent him, probably did not have wings. He was probably just had a glorified body, okay? So he didn't have probably like flesh like you and me. But angelic beings, a lot of times they don't actually have wings. The Bible says, doesn't mention wings for some of them.
Creatures.
But there are other angels, like the cherubim and seraphim, that do have wings, okay? And some of them are kind of scary looking, yes. But other ones, other angels, they actually just look like you and me, like a human being, but they're an angel, okay? Now, the angel of the Lord is meaning God Himself coming before them in the form of like an angel, look like an angel, okay? So, the angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I brought you up out of Egypt and led you into the land I swore to give to your ancestors. Now, how did He lead them out of Egypt? Who remembers what they had to go through to escape the Egyptians?
Was it like the 10 plagues?
Yeah, they did escape the 10 plagues that the Egyptians had to go through, but they had to walk through something.
A forest.
The Red Sea.
Yes, the Red
Oh.
Sea. So they walked through on dry land. And it says, I brought you up out of Egypt, and I gave you the land I swore to your ancestors. I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall not make a covenant with the people of this land, but you shall break down their altars. Why would He be telling them to break down their altars? Because those altars were for false gods like Balaam and Ashtoreth, and they were sacrificing not like people and stuff. Not good. Yet you have disobeyed me. Why have you done this? And I have also said, I will not drive them out before you. They will become traps for you, and their gods will become snares to you. So God is saying to the Israelites, I told you not to make a treaty or a covenant with them, and yet you're doing that. And because of that, they've ensnared you. Their evil practices are rubbing off on you, and this is what you're doing. And this is not good. So, because of that, I'm going to give you what you asked for. You want to live among them? They are going to become a snare to you. Okay. Let's see. Then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and they served the Baals. They forsook the Lord, the God of their ancestors, who had brought them out of Egypt. They followed and worshipped various gods of the peoples around them, and they aroused the Lord's anger, because they forsook Him and served Baal and the Ashtoreths. In His anger against Israel, the Lord gave them into the hands of raiders who plundered them. He sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, whom they were no longer able to resist. Whenever Israel went out to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them to defeat them, just as He had sworn to them, and they were in great distress. Okay, so what happened when God said that they would be handed over to their enemies? It was because those people that they tried to please, they started suppressing them, and they ended up saying, I'm making you my slave. You gotta work for me now. And God was like, I've warned you not to befriend them, to make a covenant with them. And yet this is what's happened. So they were in great distress. Now, do you think God just would have, at this point, just walked away from them completely and let them all die? No. Even though God, he allows justice to happen, he let them get what they wanted, which was to reap what they sowed, to get the consequences of befriending them. He also had a plan to rescue them. Because he heard that they were in great distress, and the Lord raised up people that were called the judges, who saved them out of the hands of their raiders. Okay? Yet they would not listen to their judges, but prostituted themselves to other gods and worshipped them. And they quickly turned from the ways of their ancestors who had been obedient to the Lord's commands. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for them, he was with the judge and saved them out of the hands of their enemies, as long as the judge lived. For the Lord relented because of their groaning under those who oppressed and afflicted them. All right, so here are examples of the false gods that they were worshiping.
That's a pretty weird looking god.
Mm-hmm.
It looks jacked. The false.
Now this
I
says
like cows.
disobedience. Okay, so they were disobeying God.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
And what did it say? It said that enemies of Israel, those that they tried to befriend and try to make a treaty with, turned on them. And they said, we're going to make you our slaves.
Is that really? That's not that bad.
Okay?
I really like that cow. I like that
Yeah.
buckeye. The one buckeye.
Of course you do. So whenever the Lord raised up a judge for them, he was with the judge and he saved them out of the hands of their enemies, as long as the judge lived. As soon as the judge died, what do you guys think the Israelites did?
Killed the army.
You know what? That's probably what they should have done. But as soon as the judge died,
They ran away.
they actually went back to worshiping Baal and the Asherahs and went back to making treaty again with the people around them. So they went down this horrible cycle, okay? They got captured by their enemies. They were crying out in distress before God. God would hear their distress, rescue them by using what he called a judge. He raised up judges. There's about 12 of them that are in the book of Judges. And each time that they were rescued, they were happy for a little while and they worshipped the true God. But as soon as that judge died, they would go back and follow the evil ways again. Okay? And this happened over and over and over again. Now, the judge that I'm putting up here, his name is Othniel. Now, that's a really weird name. We don't really hear that name now. But Othniel has an E-L at the end. If you hear it, Othniel. Okay? Every time in the Hebrew part of the Bible, the E-L actually means God. So Othniel, he was sent by God to rescue the Israelites. Okay?
Is he an angel?
But he's not an angel, no. He's actually one of the Israelites that God used. He brought him up and said, I'm choosing you to rescue your people. Okay? But when they cried out to the Lord, he raised up for them a deliverer, Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, who saved them. The Spirit of the Lord came on him so that he became Israel's judge and went to war. The Lord gave Cushan, king of Aram, into the hands of Othniel, who overpowered him. So then the land had peace for 40 years until Othniel died. Okay? So there was peace. They had peace for 40 years while the judge was alive. You kind of wonder why would they keep going back, right? Now I'm going to end with just 2 more verses, and then we can pause that. So, one of the verses is in the New Testament, and it talks about love. Okay? Love does not delight in evil, but love rejoices with the truth. So sometimes we might feel sorry for someone who's practicing something that they shouldn't be doing. We're like, oh, well, maybe they'll change. I'll just go along with it for now, and maybe I'll get a chance to talk to them. That usually doesn't happen. If you decide that you're just going to go along with what the person's doing, it's going to
You're talking to the devil.
override you. Okay?
I think.
So love does not delight in evil. So when we love people, it says we don't rejoice in the evil that they're doing. So what do we do instead? If we are face to face to someone that says, "Hey, let's go do this," and you know what's wrong, you say, "Sorry, but I'm not going to do that
Let's go
Because-
swim in demons.
because I love God more. Let's do this instead, something good." Okay? But love rejoices with the truth. So if you really love that person, you're going to stand up against the evil and speak the truth. Okay? And then one more thing the Bible says. You have heard that it was said, "Love your neighbor and hate your enemy." But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. So if we have someone who really doesn't like us in this life, God says we are supposed to pray for them. Okay? Now that's really hard to do. So that's why we need God's help with it. He says he wants us to pray and love our enemies. And I'll tell you guys a real life example. What I mean by real life, because this is real, but a modern day example after we turn that off. Does it pause? Oh, that's weird. Why isn't it stopping? Well, I can cut that part off, I guess.